if somebody's in a bad financial situation,
right,
where do we focus our energy and attention?
Well, one is infinite and one is finite, right? So if you say, you know what, I'm gonna decrease my budget to the littlest amount of money I can possibly spend, and you could ultimately live on your mom's couch, right, and have a zero expenses, right? But the problem with that is that's a finite exercise. If you can figure out how to make more money, right?
Finite exercise. What do you mean?
Meaning that you can only go to zero, right? The lowest amount of money you can spend is zero at the end of the day, but the amount of money that you can make is infinite, right? So I think the problem is people are focused on the wrong thing. Now, to your point, if you have holes in your boat and you have bad financial behavior, more money isn't going to solve that. But what I've realized, most people don't have money management issues. They have poverty management issues, right? Like you're just not making enough, right? So for example, you're not spending too much on food. You only make $50,000 a year or $40,000 a year. I think that's the issue. I think more people, once they realize that if I can just get myself to a more comfortable income level, right, then a lot of my problems will be solved. They're not going to solve behavior issues, right, but if you can get to a certain income threshold, right, then a lot of the things that you thought were problems weren't really problems.
My journey was reversed though. You know what I mean? Like I made the same amount of money, but I just kept spending it, and then I started allocating money, right? So actually, as a server, I'm taking tips and it's cash, which is dangerous for anybody because it's like I just have cash, and if I want to buy something, it's not. It's easier to let go, right? So I would come home and I take a certain amount of my tips and I start putting it in these little buckets, right? And then the rest of it, I can do whatever I want with it. And I kept the same amount of money, but I had more money to invest in like this t-shirt brand. So that's just my journey of how I started. Right. It wasn't me focusing on how to make more money, because if my focus was making more money, then I'd still be in the same. There's people that they make millions of dollars, but they're still broke.
It's a combination of all three though, right? It's like, here's the thing. If you
can't focus on both skill sets at the same time.
I mean, you kind of have to, right? It's like, I mean, if you just focused on, like you said, patching up the holes, that will be helpful. But then you focus on that. Okay, then I'm gonna jump to try to figure out how to make more money. Okay, then I'm gonna jump to that. And like, you kind of have to work these things concurrently, right? Because here's why. If you focus on patching up the holes, right, but you don't make enough, you're not gonna have anything to put into the bucket, right? It's like, okay, I patched up the hole, but I got $10 in the bucket.
But making enough, isn't making enough based on the expenses that you have and how much you're spending?
Yeah, and in theory, depending upon where you are in life, there's some changes everybody can make, undoubtedly, right? Everybody can make, but there's some things you can't cut, right? It just is what it is, right? So I think it's important to identify and have awareness on where those challenges are and what you can adjust, but I never think you should lose sight of your income earning potential, because that, for example, someone could look at their credit card bill right now and they might have $10,000 in debt, right? You and I know we can pay that bill right now, right? So if you can focus on, number one, understanding why you got into debt in the first place, you never want to lose sight of that. But at the same token, make sure that you're prioritizing being able to earn more income. I think they all just kind of work together, because if you make a lot of money, but have bad financial behavior, you're going to lose it. If you don't make enough money, but you have great financial behavior, you have nothing to manage, right? And if you don't figure out how to grow and invest the money, then all you're doing is stockpiling and saving money. It's going to take you a really, really long time to have enough cash to live off your money if your money's not working for you. So that's why they have to all work together.
What was your journey like in terms of, did you figure out how to keep your money or make more money, or did you do them simultaneously?
Simultaneously. So, you guys have seen, you've heard my story. You know that I went through a period where I was making, I don't know, maybe $250,000 or so a year back in 2008, 2010. And I lost everything during that recession. And I sat and realized that while I was making what was a lot of money for me at that time, my expenses exceeded what I brought in, left with nothing. So I knew that something had to change, and I started to read books and educate myself. And honestly, when I started making a lot of money again, I still thought that the name of the game was to save money, right? But it becomes really, really difficult to just save money. You don't see it. It becomes difficult to increase your net worth just saving money. Right. And these were just things that I noticed, like, how are you guys buying all of these assets and buying these things? Where are you getting this money to invest if all I'm doing is saving, but I'm also spending a little bit too? and I started to just get in different rooms and different circles. I didn't really know what to do with my money until I made 7 figures. Like, I didn't start taking that part seriously because I never felt like I had enough before then to do anything with. And so when I became a 7-figure earner and we've got surplus, then I started asking questions about what I needed to do with my money. And if I'm being totally transparent, at the time, so up until about 2018, I was, regularly doing about $500,000 a year, right? 2019-ish and beyond, it started to increase. And at that time, I was dating someone who's in the financial space that said, this is what you need to do with your money. If it weren't for that, honestly, I don't know where I would be on the journey, but it was just somebody closely connected that said, this is how you need to manage your money, right? And then just watching habits, like listening to these guys and what you guys teach, I'm still learning about what I should do with my money. I still spend my money I still manage my money with fear attached, honestly. Somebody was telling me yesterday that the car that I drive a Mercedes, but I drive a Mercedes SUV, but it's still like, I only bought that car, Carter, because he pressured me to.
That other little.
Before that, I was driving a Chevy, like Equinox or something like that, right? Look, so
does an Equinox fit a Donnie Wiggins?
No, it doesn't. But the car
now red bottoms on it, though.
the car that I drive now still doesn't. But let me tell you something. The reason that I drove that vehicle was because I could easily afford it. After you've lost homes and lost vehicles to repossession, you have like this fear attached. Like, ownership kind of became a joke to me. Like, no, you don't own it until you've paid the bank in full. So I'm driving this Chevy and blah, blah, blah. So Shan says, you need to buy a car. And I honestly didn't even go to buy me a car. I was going to buy my daughter a car for Christmas for her 18th year. She had just gotten her driver's license. And the guy in the dealership says, are you trading in that vehicle, pointing at the Chevy? And I'm like, no, I'm keeping that. And he's like, oh, you said this car is for your daughter, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, so your daughter is going to be driving a brand new Mercedes and you're driving this Chevy?
Good salesman right there.
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, you going to play me in my face? Give me 2. I want that one for her and this one for me.
Yeah.
And I honestly didn't even want the car, right? It was just him in my ear and what the salesman said. And yesterday I'm driving, I have someone in my car, and we're sitting parked, and this Rolls Royce pulls by, and I'm like, I want that car. And he's basically like, because I'm not a car person, that's not where I choose to spend my money. He's like, I'm glad to hear you say that, because this car ain't it. This ain't the car for Donnie Wiggins. Now I got somebody else in my ear telling me that my little Mercedes, you can whip this little thing around curves and corners real quick. Let me see you not be able to paralyze. You playing with me in my face, right? Now I have the means to be able to buy whatever car I want to buy.
Go crazy.
See?
Go crazy. Bet you won't. Bet you won't.
There is still this fear associated with, so I knew I had it in the bag. I planned it. I'm buying a Lamborghini Urus this year. I had this investment and the investment said, do it, right? But then that investment went south, and I'm like, see, this is why you shouldn't have done it. Now I'm starting to calculate all these costs. Like, if you had bought that Lamborghini Urus, you're down X amount of dollars and this, and this. So for me, I'm listening. I hear what you say. I hear what you say. I'm taking the pieces of it that I'm confident in executing. And the other part of me is still like, you better save your money, girl.
So I'll say this. I'll say if you had to pick an order, definitely the behavior side is important, because it creates a level of awareness of where you are, right? Because if you don't know where you are, it's impossible to know where you're going, right? So I would say definitely start with, I need to go through my expenses. I need to go through my income and see, do I even have a surplus? Some people don't realize that they're kind of floating their expenses with their credit card because they're paying minimum balances, right? So they don't even realize that I am exceeding my income with my expenses. So I would say start there from an awareness standpoint. Then immediately thereafter, once you have that awareness, how can I get more income, right? How can I get more income to make this so much easier, right? And then from there, I would say investing should be the next priority.
You know what I would say is first?
What?
I would tell everybody, this is just real talk, get somebody in your circle and become closely connected to somebody who is a money expert. Period. Yeah. You cannot have friends like this, like the Georges and Carters, in your circle and still be making the same stupid decisions with your money. Like, step one.
And he's like, I would say just is a better money manager than I am, because I mean, like, he's actually a financial, like, licensed financial advisor. So like, even when I see myself spending a little bit, I'll look at him like, nah, I'm good. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because he's just so responsible with his money. Like, you still have, he has plenty of money, but he has a 1-car household with him and his wife.
Don't you drive a Lambo?
I have a Lamborghini.
How did you like his Lambo purchase? Did you call him and advise him?
Well, the thing is, I know how responsible, like he's still extremely responsible. Like, because he's so focused on owning the tax lane, there's a lot of things that you don't know about him in terms of like where his money is. Because I know he's investing in real estate, because I know that he bought the Lambo, but maybe drove it once, right? And now it's being rented out, right? So because I know the behind the scenes, I know the market, like I know it's a marketing play, right? But I know the real, right? And like, he is really responsible, right? So it's not like he's just out here stunting to be stunting.